and I don't know if you saw this, but he took his putter, lifted it as high as a driver, and swung at the ball. Thankfully, he missed the ball, because had he hit the ball, there's no telling what the ball would have hit after that. Probably spectators, probably damaged the green, probably made Sergio look like one of the biggest asses in the history of the game, even a month after his tantrum in the bunker overseas. I think Sergio needs some anger management right now. I mean, he dealt with that early on in his career. Then he won the Masters. He got married. He had a child. It seemed like everything was going well. But Justin, if you look over the past couple of months, it seems like something is mentally going on with Sergio that's causing him a lot of strife on the golf course. This wasn't Matt Kuchar's fault, but Sergio was projecting it over to Matt, and I thought we were going to see a tussle right there on the 14th fairway.
And did you have Sergio earlier in the year, like tearing up greens? Wasn't he disqualified for that somewhere as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I believe that was the same tournament where he was going nuts in the bunker that one time.
That's a great gif, too, by the way.
It is a fantastic gif. He was scuffing his feet on the greens and sort of leaving scuff marks in the turf on the greens. I mean, really, really childish behavior for someone who's on the PGA Tour. I actually sent that gif over to my dad because when I was 13 years old, we were on vacation in Bald Head Island, and I had a very, very similar reaction to a bunker shot where I went ballistic in the sand and just started chopping broccolaya with my sand wedge, and sand was going everywhere, digging a hole to China. My dad was so embarrassed. And that was actually one of the moments that sort of progressed me into being more mature on the golf course. But Sergio's a pro, man. He's like almost 40 years old, and he's doing this kind of thing. I don't do that kind of thing anymore. There's something going on with that guy because, yeah, he's scuffing greens, tearing up bunkers, fighting with Matt Kuchar in the fairway. And like I said, thank God he did not make contact with that ball on the putting green when he swung his putter like a driver, because moments of rage like that can turn dangerous or deadly at that point. And so I'm really glad he didn't actually hit that ball, because that would have been a huge embarrassment for golf. Justin, one of the embarrassments for golf, I think, is the way that this group stage was handled in this match play. There's something I have to rant about really quickly, and it's really because I got screwed in fantasy.
Oh, no. I didn't go so well last time.
I know. It's not a player that I'm upset about, actually. It's the tour. And so you have this group stage where they're put into groups, 4 golfers per group. It's very much like the World Cup. So everybody plays everybody, and you have a record and you have points. Here's the difference. There's no tie-breaking procedure except for sudden death. So I had picked Ian Poulter, and he beat Kevin Kisner on Wednesday in day 1 of the match play. So he was 1-0, and Kisner was 0-1. And then they went on to go through the group stages, and it ended up that they were both 2-1 after the group stage was over. And so since they were tied, they had to play each other in sudden death. Well, normally, since the head-to-head matchup was that Poulter won against Kisner, you would think they would send Poulter on to the bracket stage. No, these two guys have to play each other heads up in sudden death, and they go 3 holes. Poulter hits 1 bad shot, makes a par while Kisner makes a birdie, and it's over for Poulter. Kisner goes on, and then guess what? Kisner actually goes on to win the whole thing. But I'm calling garbage on that. I'm calling shenanigans, because why do you even have to go to sudden death when Poulter had beat him head-to-head on Wednesday? So PGA Tour, guess what? That match on Wednesday means absolutely freaking nothing. Because if you get to be tied at the end of group stage, and then Poulter has to go play that same guy, and in a span of 1 swing can lose, that's ridiculous. That basically means the last 3 days of work that you did to get here don't mean anything. Why don't you even play the matches in the group stage? They're all tied when they start, 0-0 and 0. So why even play the group stages? Why don't you just send them all 4 out and eliminate them in sudden death? You know, first guy to make a bogey is out. Next guy to make a bogey is out. Third guy to make a bogey is out. Last one gets to go to the knockouts. That's stupid.
Wow, you really are mad about your whole fantasy play. I didn't actually realize it was even set up that way. But it almost seems like if they're going to fix it like that way, they might as well do something like you see in the World Cup, where if you're up 5 holes or something, at that point, maybe you get 5 points and try to eliminate some of the tiebreakers and at least reward the guys who are playing the best golf. If you're not going to reward head-to-head, I totally understand what you're saying there of, okay, if I beat this guy head-to-head and then we're tied and you don't ever even look back that's the tiebreaker, we have to go out and then he hits 1 better shot after I outplayed him for 18. I have to agree with you there. That doesn't really make any sense to me.
Well, you know what else isn't fair, Justin, is all these players from the AAF who found out this week that they're now unemployed. No pay, no benefits, nothing. And a lot of them are battling injuries. A lot of them are battling different things that travel expenses and everything else, where I couldn't believe when I read the news that all of a sudden the AAF was suspending football operations immediately. How did this news hit you?
Oh, I was pretty surprised by it. Now, I had heard rumblings that there was some issues, and then when Dondon got involved with needing to sort of infuse the league with cash and that there was a potential payroll issue, all those things are never good things to hear. But out of the blue to just suspend play, yeah, that was pretty surprising. And then you start to read the stories about what they've done to some of these players, guys that are injured are now on their own to rehab from injuries. And one team was all their belongings were left in the lobby for them at their hotel. Ridiculous stuff that's going on with this league. And just a shame, too, because it looked like it had some potential. But really trying to look back at some of the things they did, you know, having 52-man rosters and signing everybody to guaranteed contracts of $70,000 early on. Coaches, the coaching staffs were estimated to be getting about $2 million a year. You've got all the other staffing these teams had. I feel like maybe they went with too big of rosters to start out, that maybe they didn't need 52, that they might have needed to take a different route there. And even the money that they were paying some of the coaches, it seemed like maybe their expenses got out of control before they really had anything concrete in terms of a decent TV deal to at least cover that, to where they could be a break even and they weren't completely reliant on all their investors and they're just pouring money into this league and they're really not getting anything out of it. And like I said several weeks ago, I really thought that their goal ultimately was to have the NFL come down and purchase them and basically be sort of the NFL G League, to kind of be more of a developmental league, something in the fall, something to keep people's minds on football. It never added up. And now all of a sudden you've got a league that really seemed like they were just losing a ton of money. So I feel like that's some of the areas they went wrong. But Eric, we spin this forward to what we've talked about several times. And a couple months ago, we even delayed a show to get some of the news that was going on with the XFL. Boy, they have to be, I would think they have to be very, very nervous right now, seeing how wrong this went.
Yeah, and I think it's going to depend on how Vince McMahon and his people have it all set up, because I think one of the biggest failures of the AAF was the marketing plan and the investors and everything they had set up prior. I'll be honest with you, I can't name all of the cities and team names that were in the AAF this year, and I probably couldn't name more than 5 players. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it needs time to develop. You need marketing and you need to get that word out there. The other thing they struggled from was that chemistry, that football quality that wasn't real good at the beginning. Now, it was getting better. Games were getting more exciting. The play was getting better and better. But I don't see where any, like Dundon, I invested $70 million or was going to lose $70 million or whatever the case is on the details of that. But financially, there were problems and lawsuits, and there's just so much red tape around running a league like this. I don't know how you ever go into it with the mindset that we're going to give it 4 or 5 months, and if it doesn't work, we're going to pull out. I really think that something like this has to have time to percolate and get better and better, and they just didn't give it that time. So for the XFL, to answer your question, I think Vince and the other heads of that league need to look at this and learn lessons from it. They obviously have lessons from over a decade ago when they tried the XFL. They understand what went wrong that time. Now they have more recent data with the folding of the AAF. This could be a good thing for the XFL. It could say, okay, now we have sort of the minor league or semi-pro market wrapped up because the AAF is gone. Or it could be a huge red flag that they might say, oh, well, there's some things that they're struggling with that we might have struggled from too. So we need to put those stopgaps in place before we go live next year. It could really benefit them. You're right. So I think it's just a huge disappointment for the sport of football that this wasn't given enough time to develop into something that really could be productive for the NFL. Whether it was players emerging to be good enough to play on Sundays or not, who knows? We'll never know now because it's gone.
Yeah, I do think one of the advantages to the XFL is they've delayed theirs. They are going to take more time. I think they'll do a better job of their cities that actually have teams trying to build those markets up and have them ready versus just kind of out of the blue, like, hey, here's our 8 cities and we're going to be playing here in 2 months, where there really wasn't a lot of buildup. the XFL is also going to benefit because they have the WWE audience, that they're going to be showing a lot of these promos. WWE already has their streaming service online. They have contracts in place with a lot of different networks. I think, isn't SmackDown going to Fox or something that they're just changing? You've got USA Network that's got Raw. So they're involved in a lot of the TV side of things with basically a lot of different companies, it feels like. So they have a lot of different platforms, I think, that they can benefit from, where with the AAF, it was just kind of thrown out there. NFL Network had some games. Here's some games on TNT. But even trying to look up statistics for the AAF, it was like 5, 6, 7 links you were trying to find to just even get stats on guys or to get scores or to get standings. And it's like, guys, it shouldn't be this hard. ESPN really wasn't doing a lot behind this. They weren't showing really any highlights or doing any stories on it. So that hurts them as well. It wasn't getting picked up by the sports talk world really outside of the opening weekend, or shows weren't following along with what was happening. And there was no buildup at that point until Manziel sort of got tied up there with Memphis, and then the league shut down really before he got really going for the league, and plus he got hurt anyway. So there's a lot of mistakes, I think, that the XFL can look at. I mean, I think you do have to be a little bit nervous where you say, oh my gosh, this sort of cratered quick. But there's a lot of things I think they can look at and say, okay, we can fix some of these things, take our time and try to do this the right way. Because again, they were averaging 400,000 to 500,000 people watching these games. The XFL, again, they're going to have the benefit of that WWE audience where maybe they can double that. And all of a sudden now you have a product that maybe there's some demand for.
Yeah, and again, they don't have to be the NFL, and they don't want to be the NFL, and they're never going to be the NFL.
They don't need 30 million people a week watching.
No, they don't, but they need to be profitable.
Right.
And that's what the AAF was looking in the mirror saying, we're never going to be profitable. We have huge losses already in year one, and we don't have the time to give this 3 or 4 years to develop because we will be out of money big time if we do. So the XFL has the benefit of looking at that, like you said, and they're an entertainment company. Again, I think that's a huge advantage. But you're right. I tried to get information on the AAF. I had a buddy text me one time and say, hey, are you watching the game? It's amazing. I'm like, no, I didn't even know it was on. No one's talking about it. It's not on Twitter. It's not on Instagram. It's not on ESPN.com. The weird thing was you could go to NFL.com and they would have AAF there on the front page. And I'm like, well, that's odd. I mean, I got to go to NFL.com to find AAF stuff. The XFL has to do a better job than the AAF of branding everything up front. And I think they will because of the WWE empire that they already have. It's like a built-in fan base, right? A lot of those fans watch football. I guarantee you that. If they like wrestling, they're sure to like football as well. And so you have that built-in fan base, but you still have to have the dynamics behind it. You have to have the user interface available on your social media outlets and on your web presence, or else it's pointless. And then you have to have commercials and ways for your fans to access the content either on their iPads or on their televisions, or else it's all for naught. If I wanted to watch an AAF game, I wouldn't even know where to start to find it. And that was a big problem.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
Well, hopefully our listeners can find us, whether it be on Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, or any of the podcasting softwares that they choose. But we'd really love it if they gave us that 5-star review. It helps us jump in the ratings, help other people find us, new listeners. We appreciate you guys listening. We hope you hit us up on social media. Let us know what you're watching out there in the world of sports. We'll be back at you next week with Talk Back. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talk Back. Staying current on sports is our #1 goal, so we drop a new episode each Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or the podcatcher of your choice. For more info about the show, to meet the hosts, or to partner with us on future episodes, please visit TalkbackFanTalk.com. We really enjoy hearing your take on the world of sports, even when you disagree. After all, this show is dedicated to you, the fans. So get direct access to us on Twitter using @TalkbackJustin and @TalkbackEric. Check out our corporate feed on Twitter and Instagram using the handle @TalkbackFanTalk. We hope you have a great week. We'll talk back at you next time.